Hey guys, welcome back to the Sports Stuff video. Today we're talking about the AFC North. This is the final division. Wow. We officially made it through all divisions of the NFL. If you do hear rain, don't mind. Officially moving on from this series. It's kind of emotional. Did all 16 divisions. Let's get into it. Final one. Let's go. My division of the Cleveland Browns. Had to rep the hat. This is my division. That's why I wanted to do it very, very last. I wanted to have, throughout my research, find the best guys, and then just show my bias at the very end. So let's get started. Let me get over to this screen. So, starting off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I did something a little risky, all right? I know, wow, Nick, this is really dumb. But, hear me out, all right? The Steelers, they got their offense. They have the offensive line for the most part that they want. What they really need to fix is their defense. And who better to get their defensive line fixed than Jalen Carter? I think they have the pass rush. They have Alex Highsmith. They have TJ Watt. They have Cam Hayward. I like that pass rush on the outside. What I don't like about the Steelers is their inside pressure rate and their run stopping ability from the inside. So who do they get? They trade up to number 8 overall and they grab Jalen Carter. They give up 2 first-round picks, a second and a fourth for number 8 overall and a 5th. So basically, 2 firsts and a second and a pick swap to grab Jalen Carter, a franchise linchpin in this defensive line for the next 10 years. And why do I think the Steelers do this? The Steelers have always been really good at covering up problems and maintaining guys until it's too much. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben, even for the most part. They're really good at holding guys' not great personalities out of the locker room and holding on to them as long as they can to get as much as they can out of them. And I think that Mike Tomlin's going to do it again with a franchise piece like Jalen Carter. Yes, you do give up a first-round pick next year and your second-round pick this year, but you have 2 second-round picks this year, so that one, in my opinion, is expendable. And because of that, you do keep number 32 overall, and you grab DeJuan Jones. And, I think for the most part, Dan Moore can start for one more year. I know he's not the best player, and no one on Twitter, Steelers Twitter, likes him, but I think Dan Jones is better than Chukwuma Okorafor. Okorafor has been there a couple of years now. In my opinion, he's got to get upgraded. DeJuan Jones is a clear upgrade over him. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. This is the type of right tackle that's in normal classes goes in the first rounds. If he slips out of the first round, I'd be shocked. So at pick 32, you have the very first pick outside the first round. He's one of the guys that are a first round talent. They're going to slip out. And I think if the Steelers can grab DeJuan Jones, that's yet another franchise piece on their offensive line. Then at pick 80, I do grab Chandler Zavala. Chandler Zavala out of NDSU is one of the interior linemen that have been climbing up my boards. Only allowing 4 pressures last year at 6'5", 325. You have James Daniels at right guard. You signed Isaac Samalu in free agency to be your left guard. I think Chandler Zavala, give him a chance, give him a year or 2 to develop behind Isaac Samalu, and I think he can turn into something really good. Yes, you do have guys like Kendrick Green and Kevin Dotson currently on new rosters, backups. But I think Chandler Zavala has actual upside, unlike them, who both of them have had chances to start and have just become backups because they're not good enough. I think Chandler Zavala can be a kind of guy who can be a backup and prove himself to be a starter. And I think the Steelers have done a really good job at getting depth at their offensive line, but not getting those starters that they can develop. Then at 159 in the 5th round, I do grab Starling Thomas the 5th out of UAB. This is an outside corner. He's not the best guy in the class. Is the reason he's in the 5th round. But I mean, for a team that has Pat Pete, Levi Wallace, Arthur Mallett, and that's it. Akello Witherspoon's also on this team. They just need more talent at corner. They lost Cam Sutton to the Lions this year. He's 6 foot 195, allowing only 22 catches for 257 yards this past year. Didn't get any interceptions, which is not great, but he had 17 forced incompletions, which is really good for outside corner. I think if Starling Thomas can get in this defense, there's a chance that he might be able to develop into a starter for them. But at worst, he'd be a really solid backup with starter history in college. And honestly, he wasn't like, he's not really a boom or bust guy. He's the type of dude who's going to be solid his entire career. If you look at his stats in 2022, he was basically middle of the pack the entire year, which is not the worst thing in the world, especially in the 5th round, getting a guy who was just solid in his time at college. Next up, you have Aubrey Miller, the junior from Jackson State. Obviously, played with Deion Sanders last year. 6'2", 225, mostly a box linebacker. Honestly, he's just a solid linebacker. You lost Devin Bush in free agency. You cut oh man, what's his name? You cut the linebacker. Oh man, this is gonna kill me. Who's the linebacker they cut? Steelers cut linebacker. Miles Jack. They cut Miles Jack. They did get Landon Roberts and Cole Holcomb. Both of them are solid pickups. But in my opinion, grab Aubrey Miller. He might be a good rotational piece. Be that 3rd, 4th linebacker in the micro linebacker role, and just see what you can do with him. Then in 241 in the 7th round, I decided, you know what, let's go really deep into this wide receiver class. Let's grab Jadakis Bonds out of Hampton. I believe it's a D2 school, if I'm not mistaken. It might be D1, but I'm pretty sure it's D2. 6'4", 200 pounds, really solid. He's mostly a deep threat. You know what I mean? He had 13 deep catches for 457 yards. Not the worst player in the world, but definitely a 7th round flyer. But this team has been shown that they can develop any wide receiver into whatever they want them to be. I mean, Deontay Johnson was a 3rd round pick. George Pickens was a 2nd round pick. You know what I mean? 2nd round picks usually turn out. But they've had a long history of late round wide receivers, turning them into something and letting them walk in free agency. That's just what they do. For some reason, their wide receiver coach is just amazing, and maybe it is Mike Tomlin, but their wide receiver coach and the offense that they've cultivated has been really good at just turning depth wide receivers into capable rotation guys. I mean, I'm looking at their roster. They're 5-6 wide receivers deep, and it's still good guys that I would trust to be part of their offense. So grabbing Jadakis Bonds in the 7th round. I like his deep threat ability. I also don't think he's the worst when it comes to contested catches either. I mean, he's got the frame, 6'4", 200. He might be able to turn into something. Gives me a B overall. Yes, you do gamble a lot in this class for guys like Jalen Carter. You got to trade up and get him. Guys like Starling Thomas and Jadakis Bonds. But I trust this team to develop guys. And the trade gives me an F for the trade. I understand. But if you can get a guy like Jalen Carter for the next 10 years, it's worth it. Moving on to the Baltimore Ravens. So I decided to do something a little risky. The Ravens have been known for just being amazing at drafting and constantly having for the last couple of years the best draft class year after year after year. I decided, you know what? Instead of going for like guys that are falling that people thought would be 1st, 2nd round picks, let's just grab guys that are good. So at pick 22, I reached a little bit. I did grab Emmanuel Forbes. I think they need another outside corner. This guy can play outside, inside. He's 6'1", 166. Got 6 interceptions last year. He has 14 interceptions in his 3-year career so far. So he's definitely a ball-hawking corner, kind of like Marcus Peters. He lets up the big play sometimes, but he's going to get his interceptions. He mainly played outside corner, which the Baltimore Ravens do need. But 14 picks, 17 pass breakups in 3 years at college is really good. He was a 90 overall coverage grade, only allowed a 53.4% completion percentage. This guy is definitely someone that I would trust on the outside. And if the Ravens could get him with Marlon Humphrey, I believe Marcus Peters is still on the team, and a guy like Jalen Armour Davis, who they drafted last year in the slot. I trust that secondary way more than I did this past season. Then I do grab another safety, Jamie Robinson. Wow. Why do the minute I start recording, I can't remember anyone's name ever. This happens every single time I start recording these videos. The Baltimore Ravens. Let me go to depth charts. Why did I go to roster? There it is. Marcus Williams. That's what I was thinking of. They have Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton, but I think Jamie Robinson is someone that can definitely play in this scheme for the future. I think he can play free safety for him. Marcus Williams isn't going to be there forever. I believe they signed him last year in free agency. He's 5'11", 191. He has hundreds of snaps all across the defense in a slot, box, deep. He even has some pass rushing prowess. But this is a guy you can throw anywhere on the field and trust him to make the tackle, to make the play, and not let up big plays. Jamie Robinson is definitely someone that if they can get they can definitely develop into a really powerful, powerful chess piece, you could say, for this defense. So I would really trust them that if they can get something like Jamie Robinson, they can turn into something special, because it's a team that's been really good at developing secondary members. And then in the 4th round, I grab another running back, Sean Tucker. I was thinking about grabbing Bijan in the 1st round, but I said, you know what? I'm just gonna let the draft board come to me. He's 5'9", 207. He is a very solid second down running back. Has really solid receiving ability, solid down the hill running. 1,000 yards the last 2 years, 1,500 yards last year. He's got that pass catching prowess as well. And he forced 46 missed tackles at Syracuse. I think just adding more versatility to this running back room. I decided not to add a wide receiver until the 5th round, and Dontavian Wicks, another guy that I think is getting a little slept on in the 5th rounds. I mean, he's 6'1", 206. Only played 8 games last year due to injury, but using his frame, I like we can do downfield. I like we can do midfield as well. I would probably have him in rotation. A lot of guys in Baltimore Ravens Twitter are out on James Prochet. I think Dontavian Wicks is bigger than James Prochet, but I think he can play a lot of the same roles as James Prochet. There's another wide receiver you can throw in there, see if you can turn him into anything. And then Jacob Slade as well, out of Michigan State. They just need another D tackle. I think every team, it doesn't hurt to have another D tackle. They currently have Broderick Washington as their D tackle, and I would honestly trust Jacob Slade as well to be the backup D tackle. Maybe even somehow start over Broderick Washington. 6'4", 315, mostly played at D tackle in college. He had 1 sack and 9 hurries in only 8 games this year, so he had a little bit of injury history. But in 2021, when he played all the games he could, he had 3 sacks, 33 hurries, and 3 batted balls. This is a guy that if you can get him on the field, good. But, if he might be hurt a lot, but I think he just adds more depth to this team. And what I think a lot of their starters are solidified. This is a team that needs depth now, because guys constantly get injured on the Baltimore Ravens for whatever reason, and almost all of these picks are really solid depth. Jamie Robinson could be a really good third safety. Sean Tucker could be a really solid pass catching and hard-nosed running back. Dontavian Wicks can play that wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 role. Jacob Slade can start for you, but also is a really solid backup to Broderick Washington. They just need more backups, and that's why we really wanted to aim for in this class. They have their starters. Let's get them competent backups that if they need to play, you trust them. Gives me a B overall. I'm okay with that. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals, I decided to go a little out there and go, you guys know, almost all these guys in this draft are my guys. They're guys that I constantly love and talk about. Mozzie Smith at number 28 overall. I thought about doing a trade, but I said, you know what? The Bengals are about to pay. They're about to pay T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. All 3 of them are about to get paid. Let's change how I'm going to do this and say, you know what? I'm going to start preparing for the future. Let's start getting defensive linemen, because they have a lot of money on guys like, I want to make sure I say his name right. They have guys like DJ Reader, BJ Hill, and Trey Hendrickson. All 3 of them are on big deals, 1, 2, 3, 4-year deals. All of them are coming up pretty soon within the next year or two, and they're about to pay their 3 big guys. And they already paid Orlando Brown. They paid Lyle Collins. It's a team that's going to have to start cutting at certain places to pay their big 3 guys and their tackles. So I'm excited, you know what? Let's get ahead of it. Let's cut BJ Hill in the future and replace him with Mozzie Smith. Mozzie Smith is the kind of guy that I would definitely trust to run my defensive line. Not BJ Hill. DJ Reader. Sorry, BJ and DJ. I'm getting them confused. Mozzie Smith could definitely take over for a DJ Reader. He's a run stuffer just like DJ Reader. 6'3", 323, a mountain of a man. He played 585 snaps total, and almost all of them at nose tackle, with 400 snaps at nose tackle. 19 hurries, 1 sack. Again, he's not going to be the sack guy, but he will absolutely be your run stuffer. And DJ Reader is your run stuffer on the defensive line. And I think, let me look up his contract. I believe DJ Reader contract. If I'm not mistaken, There we go. He'll earn a base salary of $11 million and carry a cap hit of $15 million. So if they did cut him this year, they would save $11 million. I'm not gonna cut him because they could use him for one more year. But this is the guy's making $15 million on the cap. If you cut him and have Mozzie Smith start instead, you'd save nearly $11 million on the cap. That's a lot of money. So Mozzie Smith can play his role, have him sit behind DJ Reader for a year, either let him walk in free agent. I don't know if he's a free agent next year. I think he is. But if he isn't a free agent, you can cut him after this season, have Mozzie Smith take over, and move on. And speaking of defensive line changes, I do also have them grabbing Nick Herbig. And again, another thing, you guys know how much I like Nick Herbig. This is 6'2", 240 guy, 2 years in a row, has had one of the highest pass rushing grades out of Wisconsin. He's an outside tackle, and guess who's an outside tackle pass rusher? Who's on a big deal, who's coming up on the end of his contract? Trey Hendrickson. This, again, another guy, big deal that they signed a few years ago that's really worked out for them. They got to start replacing him because they can't afford him. Nick Herbig is the type of dude who I think can develop into a really good pass rusher, outside tackle, off-ball linebacker, pass rusher. But in a 4-3, he'd obviously be on the defensive end. He is a little small, 6'2", 240. He can beef himself up a little bit, maybe go 6'2", 255 coming off the edge, add 10, 15 pounds of muscle, and I think it'd be a really scary addition to this defensive line. And obviously, you guys also know I had to grab Carl Brooks. Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green, I have nothing but amazing things to say about. He had an amazing year at Bowling Green last year. Played all over the defensive line, but he had 12 sacks, 49 hurries. I mean, he's just outstanding. He's just outstanding. And like I said, BJ Hill. I think you're gonna have to put Mozzie Smith at nose tackle, Carl Brooks at D tackle, Nick Herbig at Trey Hendrickson's spot in a 3-4 scheme. I mean, sorry, a 4-3 scheme. I mean, you just gotta do what you gotta do to try and make this defensive line cheaper. Because after the season, you're gonna be paying a lot of guys a lot of money. Because they'd say they want to keep T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. They want to keep all three of them. That means you have to cut some guys. You have to let some guys walk in free agency, replace them with cheaper talent, and you can see what you can do in the future. So this would be their potential future starting defensive line. Would be Sam Hubbard, Mozzie Smith, Carl Brooks, Nick Herbig. That's a very good 4-3 scheme still. And then in the 4th round, I said, you know what? Now I got to think of a Tyler Boyd replacement. Tyler Boyd is making, I think, $13 million this year and is on the books for one more year after this. You got to replace him. Parker Washington, I think, is a really solid Tyler Boyd replacement. He's not the exact carbon copy of Tyler Boyd. I think Parker Washington's a little slower. I think he has a better route tree than Tyler Boyd. And I think Tyler Boyd has better hands than him. But, coach him up. I've been saying this about Parker Washington. He is the best wide receiver 4 in this class because he's gonna fight for wide receiver 3 minutes. But if you get him on a team with a stacked wide receiver core, he's gonna take everything. He's gonna take all that information in, learn everything he can, and become the best player he can be. I hope he ends up on the Browns. I would love Parker Washington on the Browns. I love his jump ball ability. I love his 50-50 ability. Out of Penn State, he'd be a really good Tyler Boyd replacement after the season. Then I grabbed Keitrell Clark, the best nickel corner in this class. Currently, they have Dax Hill at strong safety, which I thought was a little interesting. I don't know why they don't have him at nickel corner. Obviously, Dax Hill's going to be playing in the slot a lot as a safety. But they have Mike Hilton currently as their nickel back. Keitrell Clark will easily beat up Mike Hilton. You have Cam Taylor-Britt, Jadobi Awuzie as their outside corners. Have Mike Hilton and Cam Taylor-Britt fight for those minutes. I would put Keitrell Clark in the slot immediately. Watch him just be amazing tackler, terrible ball skill abilities. But I mean, if you don't need him to be the best ball hawker in your defense, I would really like Keitrell Clark in this team. Same with Trey Dean, same problems. I love his tackling ability. I love his speed. I love his mind, but I don't like his ball hawking ability. He can't catch the ball for whatever reason. But again, you got guys on this team like Dax Hill, Nick Scott, and Jadobi Awuzie, and Mike Hilton to a point. I like their ball hawking ability. So if you grab a Trey Dean and a Keitrell Clark, Trey Dean can be your third safety. Keitrell Clark can be your starting nickel corner. You get him in the 5th and 6th round. They're dirt cheap for the next 4 years. Then I decided to grab another running back. You currently only have Joe Mixon and Travion Williams on roster. I think Travis Dye, he's a thumping running back. He comes with power. I really think that him from USC coming to the Cincinnati Bengals, I think he's going to have that same hard-nosed running that Joe Mixon has. but again, as a 7th round pick, way cheaper. Gives me a B plus overall. I'll probably go a little higher. When you remake the entirety of your defensive line, you added Tyler Boyd, you added nickel corner, add your third safety, add a good backup running back. I'd probably go to A. I think that's an A class. And then, speaking of the Cleveland Browns, you guys know I had to do the best I could to make my class the best I could. I don't agree with any of these rankings because the Cleveland Browns has been basically yelling to the clouds. We're adding more defensive ends in this class. So I grabbed the 2 best defensive linemen I could at 74 overall. I know I try to not double draft guys in my divisional mock drafts, but Carl Brooks is right there. I couldn't not do it. Carl Brooks, again, he can play inside, he can play outside, and for the Cleveland Browns, let me go to the Cleveland Browns depth chart because I like knowing how they expect guys to play on their defense. For the Cleveland Browns, they currently have Ogbonnia Okoronkwo, which I completely agree. I love him at defensive ends. I think Carl Brooks can move inside. I think Dalvin Tomlinson and Carl Brooks would be your 4D tackle. I'll be your starting 2D tackles. You have Perrion Winfrey. Wow, I can't speak. You have Perrion Winfrey as your 3rd tackle. Jordan Elliott, Tristan Hill can fight for those for 4th minutes. But I would love Carl Brooks moving into defensive tackle, helping out Dalvin Tomlinson from the interior. And he can also kick outside. He has outside versatility, which I really love. I mean, this is a team that has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 9 D tackles currently on roster. 9 D tackles are currently on roster. They are trying everything they can to get as many D tackles as they can and weed out the bad ones and keep the good ones. So I think Carl Brooks, with his pass rush ability, I would love him from the interior of the defensive tackle room. You have Dalvin Tomlinson and Perrion Winfrey to be your run stoppers. Get Carl Brooks to be your pass rusher. Then at Andrew Voorhees in the 3rd round as well at 98 overall. I think within the next year or two, we're going to see a massive overhaul of this offensive line. I mean, Joel Bitonio is going to be there until he retires, but Jed Wills is going to have to get a contract soon. He signed Jack Conklin to a long-term contract, I believe through 2026. Who's the outman then? Wyatt Teller. I think Wyatt Teller is going to be gone within the next year or two. He's a luxury that we can't afford anymore. So in the 3rd round, I'm grabbing Andrew Voorhees, sitting him behind Joel Bitonio, saying, hey, Joel, teach Andrew everything you can. Because he's either going to be your replacement or he's going to be Wyatt Teller's replacement. I think Joel Bitonio has another 2 or 3 years in him. So I think Wyatt Teller will be gone just because of his contract. So Andrew Voorhees comes in. I think he has the ability to be a really good guard in this league. Sorry, I don't know why I'm stuttering so much. Andrew Voorhees out of USC. I mean, he's a good run blocker, really good zone blocker as well. We love when we run the ball, running a zone heavy scheme when we run the ball. So Andrew Voorhees would fit right in. And I think him and Joel Bitonio, if that is who he stays with, they would be a really good match. Then in the 4th round, you guys don't actually see me draft Byron Young all that much. Every time I ever do a mock draft, he always goes in like the 2nd round. Like, this is a guy that's not going to go in the 2nd round. He's going to go in the 3rd or 4th round. And every time I do a mock draft on PFF, he's gone in the 2nd. So, like, when I finally got him at round 4 where he should be going, I said, yes, we're going to overdraft him still by 22 picks. Because this is a guy who's going to start. He's going to start somewhere in the league. I mean, he's 6'3", 294, 34-inch arms. Like, he's an amazing run defender. So, like I said, I think Dalvin Tomlinson, Perrion Winfrey would be your run blocker, run defending D tackles. Have Byron Young come in, fight for minutes. You have Carl Brooks to be your pass rusher. That is a 4-man group that I think can compete in this NFL. Right now, your 4-man group is Dalvin Tomlinson, Jordan Elliott, Perrion Winfrey, and Tristan Hill. Now, it'll be Dalvin Tomlinson and Carl Brooks starting, Byron Young and Perrion Winfrey backing him up. That's a 4-man of a D tackle room that I actually love. Then, there he is, Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez, man, I love Jose Ramirez. He's genuinely one of my favorite pass rushers in this class. Finally getting a true edge rusher in this draft class for the Cleveland Browns. Again, last year led college football in pressure rate. He's a guy that always gets to the quarterback. He's had 10 sacks the last 2 years, 56 hurries combined the last 2 years. He's a primary outside rusher, and the Browns could use more of that. Myles Garrett, Alex Wright, Ogbonnia Okoronkwo, Isaiah Thomas, and Jose Ramirez. That is an amazing 5-man rusher group with a lot of upside, man. I would love if the Browns could get Jose Ramirez to back up Myles Garrett and Ogbo Okoronkwo it would be ideal, in my opinion. It'd be ideal. Then Ronnie Hickman at 140. So I'm actually a fan of Ronnie Hickman being moved to linebacker. Let me get his sizing real quick. So Ronnie Hickman, why did it go away? Ronnie Hickman is 6 foot 203. He's well built for a safety. So I think if you add even more weight onto him, he could be a really good middle linebacker. And what do the Browns need? More help at middle linebacker. Currently, we have Anthony Walker and Sione Takitaki. I think Sione's going to be our Sam linebacker. I don't think he's going to be our Mike linebacker. We only have like 4 linebackers that I really like. That's it. Only 4 that I really like. So I think Ronnie Hickman can come in, be that backup middle linebacker to Anthony Walker. And I think that'd be really good for the entirety of the room to have a young guy who's hungry, wants to fight for minutes, and who has, he's like, hey, I'm his former safety. I got to prove myself that I'm a middle linebacker. And if he doesn't prove himself, that's fine. We'll just use him at safety as well. I think he's an okay, strong safety. If you want to play him at strong safety and just have him in the box a lot, that's also okay. But if you want to make him a designated linebacker, that is also perfectly fine with me out of Ohio State. Then Bryce Ford Wheaton. Once we got to this part of the draft, I said, you know what? Let's just take guys I think have high upside that maybe you can take a shot on. Bryce Ford Wheaton, he is 6'4", 221. He had 18 contested catches last year at wide receiver, which is 4th in the nation. So this is a guy who loves 50-50 balls. The problem is, you guys know how I feel about guys who do 50-50 balls. I am not very high on guys who their entire thing is 50-50 balls. If you don't have the speed to separate from defenders, you don't got NFL speed. Especially in college, if you can't break your way from these defenders in college, you don't got NFL speed. So Bryce Ford Wheaton is a chance, but I think if you can get him in the red zone, I would love to see him in the red zone. 6'4", 220. That's where I think he would really be utilized. I wouldn't really use him any other time, except for within 10 to 15 yards of the end zone. You need these big bodies who can jump and catch the ball. Outside of that, I don't think Bryce is going to be starting anywhere in the NFL. Keaton Mitchell out of East Carolina. He's just more of a receiving threat, kind of like Demetric Felton. So I don't know if you want to get another Demetric Felton. Currently at running back, you have Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, John Kelly, and you can't technically count Demetric Felton as a wide receiver. But I would definitely keep Keaton Mitchell as a running back. But Jerome Ford does that already. John Kelly is a really good backup to Nick Chubb. But Jerome Ford is already your pass catcher. Do you really want to get another pass catcher? Maybe. But I think Keaton Mitchell has that ability to be a really good pass catcher in the NFL. Then Alex Forsyth out of Oregon. I want another center. I mean, we have 3 centers that I pretty decently like. I like Ethan Pochik. I like Nick Harris. I'm not high on Dawson Deaton, but he's okay. So Alex Forsyth, 7th round, maybe you like him more than Dawson Deaton. You cut Dawson, keep Alex Forsyth. But I don't see him keeping 3 centers. But gives me a B- overall. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's definitely a better class. I mean, again, you add more to your D-tackle room, primary pass rusher, good backup guard. A lot of these guys are rotational guys or starters. There's no like, oh my God, this is a franchise piece. There's no one in here like that. But the Browns need to start hitting more on guys who are just solid enough to be on your team. But if you guys did enjoy this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified when I post next. I'm really excited. This series is now over. A little emotional because, so much work I did on these mock drafts. But if you guys did enjoy, let me know. Hopefully coming this week, I'll be having my offense and defensive grades, top 3 or top 5 at each position. And then on Thursday or Wednesday night will be my final mock draft of the NFL season. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, I'm excited, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.